Wow, I think this is the longest break I've taken from uploading since I even started uploading. In case you were wondering where I was before we get into the conversation, I invested in an Xbox Series X, which surprisingly led me to pretty much buying an entire new setup to be compatible with it at its best quality. And as soon as I got used to that, taking about a few days to a week to kind of get in the groove of that, that's now my main platform, by the way, pretty much. No longer playing on PC. I got really sick. Thankfully, it wasn't COVID, and thankfully, I'm feeling much better now. But I got a very bad kidney infection, so that put me out of commission for quite some time. And now we're just getting back into the swing of things, and thankfully I don't think anything crazy has happened except the one topic that I really want to talk about today, which is the Quickdraw nerf. Now, I'm sure many other people have covered this, but of course I want to give you guys my insight and my personal opinion on what I think about this change. So if you somehow don't know already, the Quickdraw change is essentially changing it so that you don't always get 100 handling. That is what it does currently, is a persistent 100 handling, always active, and now it's only going to be when you swap weapons and for about a second after you swap. In addition to this, it's being removed from Astral Horizon and Fellwinter's Lie, two of the most popular and most potent shotguns currently, and this is probably the most controversial point about Quickdraw. I'll go ahead and say that I'm a massive fan of these Quickdraw changes. I like how they were handled, and I'm pretty happy that it's being removed from the most popular aggressive shotguns. Before talking about the problem with Quickdraw in its current state, I know that a lot of people might argue, the opposing argument is going to be that Quickdraw increases the skill ceiling, being able to swap and, deal damage with a hand cannon and shotgun, and that there's a skill to that. While there is a skill to that I will acknowledge, I do still believe it's easier than just using your primary weapon, as you should be in engagements, rather than hopping in and jumping up with stompies while putting a single hand cannon shot and swapping to your shotgun. Why? Because it's easier to clean up with your shotgun than to continue using your hand cannon, or in scenarios where you're in a primary gunfight, all of a sudden just sliding and cleaning up with a shotgun after you've gotten 1 or 2 hand cannon shots in. Why are you doing this? Because it is faster and both easier to get off high amounts of damage than just using your primary in that given engagement. In my opinion, this doesn't take away from the importance of evasive movement or good movement in engagements or between engagements, because you still need to have that, and that still matters when using a primary or fighting in a primary fight. My main opinion and my main point is that the shotgun swapping is clearly being done because it is a higher amount of burst damage that takes less precision, rather than continuing to use your primary weapon in an engagement. So yes, while there is a mechanical skill in swapping and when you decide to do that and getting that high burst damage off between a hand cannon and a shotty and exactly the precise timing to do so, I do believe that that skill is lesser than just properly aiming a primary, whether you're on the ground or in the air, with good movement. But to set expectations, if you think the Quickdraw nerf is going to solve this and you think this isn't going to happen anymore, I would change your mentality. People are still going to quick swap to shotguns to clean up kills. But then you might say, well, then why are we changing Quickdraw? And that's where I am going to get into now, the problem with Quickdraw, in my opinion, in its current state. Quickdraw completely eliminates a category in which you have to be cognizant of when you're investing in a weapons role and the trade-offs that you're making while you do so. Quickdraw eliminates the handling stat from being a concern in the best way possible, making it max speed all the time, the best the handling stat can be. And handling for many players is one of the most important stats on a weapon. Firstly, it usually comes down to range on most weapons. If you're a controller player, you might care about stability, but if you're an M&K player, it's not as big of a deal to you, and handling comes right after that. Range and handling, and in addition stability, depending on your input method, are the most important stats. Eliminating one of those 2 or 3 stats, being handling, to something that you no longer have to worry about means you don't have to make as many trade-offs, and this means you get weapons that will just get the best of absolutely everything and be insane in nearly every way with little to no trade-offs, probably no trade-offs. The Astral Horizon is a quintessential example of this. You can get Rifled Barrel, which gives you more range than Full Choke and doesn't cost you your precision damage, Accurized Rounds or Assault Mag, Opening Shot, all with Quickdraw. Now normally Rifled Barrel would actually greatly decrease your handling speed, and if you look at the handling on an Astral with this rule, you'll actually have really low handling. But that doesn't matter because you have Quickdraw. And it makes this weapon, which is inherently a low handling weapon, even if you went for Full Choke, just not have to care about handling because it'll be very, very high handling. And this means you can go fully into range. It means you don't need a handling masterwork to try and improve that in any way. It means you no longer have to use dexterity mods to try and even just improve the dexterity or swap speed of your weapon by even just a few frames at a time. It means that you also don't need to run Dragon Shadow, Ophidians, or handling modifying exotics. It eliminates a bunch of different things and gives you everything you can ask for on one weapon. You get all the handling and swap speed in the world, and you get all of the best range or rate of fire possible in the world. It just gets everything. It turns Destiny into this, let's just stack as much as we can on a weapon to make it insane, rather than a thoughtful process of investing in what you might think is the most important thing and being willing to give up on other things. In my gameplay, I'm using a Toil and Trouble rule that has Threat Detector, Snapshot Sights, Accurized Rounds, Corkscrew Rifling, and a Handling Masterwork. Debatably, the only way you can make this better is by getting Full Choke, but even Corkscrew is good because it slightly boosts the handling. A rule like this would never see the light of day in the world of quick-draw shotguns. Why? Because I have to invest 3 different areas, maybe 4 areas of this weapon's perks to get quick-draw level handling. But after the quick draw changes, this rule becomes incredibly valuable. It is pretty much max handling, quick draw level status of swap speeds. So like I said, that swapping of your hand cannon shoddy cleanup might not go away. However, the difference is now is you're going to have to fully invest in that on a weapon. Threat Detector increases handling by 20 for 1 stack within 15 meters of an enemy, which is pretty generous. And honestly, I'm not sure why you'd be using a shotgun outside of that range or even at 15 meters, but when you're getting ready to swap, it will boost your handling by 20, taking this roll to 70 handling. Then I have Snapshot to get me to ADS very, very quickly. And of course, stat boost to the handling stat because I've invested in that to get that as fast as possible. I'm even using Quick Charge on my build right now and a Shotgun Dexterity mod. Both of those count as Shotgun Dexterity mods and they will stack to further boost my swap speed. This is the level of investment you're going to have in order to get the previous or current level quick draw status on an aggressive frame shotgun. And now you have to decide if that's still worth it, because this shotgun, while it can get pretty much quick draw levels of speed, also does not get as much range from stat modifiers, maybe as much rate of fire, and doesn't get a free range and accuracy boost from opening shot. My point is there's now trade-offs. You go for speed, you're gonna lose some range. Maybe that's gonna affect the range in which you can hand cannon to shotgun swap kill someone, or maybe the range that you can clean up on someone, or maybe how effective your aim has to be with the shotgun and how you line up your shot because you don't have an accuracy boost. Conversely, going for a mega high one-hit kill range shotgun with high accuracy is probably not going to allow you to get a lot of speed out of it or handling out of it, which means you're not going to be able to swap in engagements to clean up as much, and you won't be able to swap to your shotgun to either stop someone from rushing you as much, or you won't be able to swap to it to make up for an error in your range. You're going to need to commit to your shotgun more, and that really might hurt you as well. So again, there's a thought process to be had. There are trade-offs to be had here. Astral and Fellwinters, I believe, are getting surplus though, which is interesting, but even that comes at a cost. That means you're going to have to be aware of your ability usage and actually not use your abilities if you want a massive handling buff that feels like Quick Draw. Again, the theme here is trade-offs. Quick Draw did not have trade-offs. Now we will have trade-offs and a thought process behind them. There are also changes coming to the perk Celerity, which is going to give plus 20 handling, which means it becomes valuable as well as not quite Quick Draw, but still a sizable handling buff. On my Astral, this is another role that will now shine because of the Quickdraw changes that requires a lot of investment going in to get good handling. It has Celerity for plus 20 handling to bring it to 55 handling, and Pulse Monitor, which when you're weak will give you 45 handling and the equivalent of a Shotgun Dexterity mod. This will take this to 100 handling when I'm critically wounded. So if I actually, or you actually want to defensively shotgun, meaning when you're weak or you get hit, you swap, this is an excellent shotgun for that. And again, there's a thought process of when you'll need to swap. You'll have to be thinking about that when you're weak, and you have to invest numerous perks on this weapon to get that potential ability. As I mentioned, I also expect more players to gravitate towards Dragon Shadow and Ophidian Aspects because of their handling buffs. In the case of Dragon Shadow though, you still have to be wary for how long you have that buff up, and you're giving up your dodge, or at least using your dodge's activation to buff yourself for a short period of time. These are all things you have to manage in the game, and it's no longer just have it forever all the time maximum. There's trade-offs, there's thought process. Ophidian Aspect is a consistent, always active handling boost, but it's not as big as Dragon Shadow. It's not max handling. I believe it's plus 20. Don't quote me on that. But at the very least, in both scenarios, these exotics will take people off of transversive steps and stompies to high-speed mobility exotics that are often used to close the gap easier, slide further, etc. Dragon Shadow, of course, does have some benefits of this, but again, it's only for a limited period of time, and the jump effects are nowhere near as significant as stompies. So these are all trade-offs that'll take people off of other existing very popular and very powerful exotics and introduce more diversity, more decision making into the pool, essentially for your deck building and your loadout building and what you choose as the most valuable thing. There's going to be benefits and there are going to be trade-offs, and in the world of Quickdraw right now, there really aren't. As far as mods, this should also entice players to want to use Shotgun Dexterity mods or Quick Charges, which are relatively costly on your armor. They, I believe, take 5 points each, so that will take some good investment. Even if it is just a small bonus, I think players' value in snappiness and swap speed of their weapons will entice them to want to spend mod slots or points on this instead of other mods. Lastly, Quickdraw will still exist, even just for its swap speed, which is enough on shotguns on other archetypes like the lightweights and precisions. This might make people want to use other shotgun archetypes. In the case of lightweights, having a faster rate of fire and a nice speed bonus, but also having less damage per pellet, although they still do have a good 1-hit kill range, it will require you to aim more precisely and land more pellets, and RNG will also play a factor in that and its consistency. Overall though, it still has a less 1-hit kill range than the aggressives, and they're not as forgiving again because of the pellets you have to land. The precision frames can get really high range, incredibly high range, and still get quick draw, which makes them very good, very accurate, but again, still doesn't have the 1-hit kill range of aggressives. A little bit more consistency than the lightweights, but not quite the 1-hit kill range of the aggressives. Again, new archetypes now are seriously going to be looked at for what shotgun you take with you based on what you value and what you feel is the best. I guess on a small side note, at least it won't feel absolutely terrible getting a handling masterwork with Quickdraw anymore, because the handling masterwork will still do something. It's not just for the swap speed, it'll be for things like your ADS speed, and it won't just feel like you get a useless masterwork, which used to trigger me very, very much. The biggest losers from the Quickdraw changes is going to be snipers. I love Far Future with Quickdraw and Demolitionist, but this isn't going to quite be the same. The swap speed is only going to be active for a second, or that handling boost, and I'm not even sure if that's going to give you enough time to ADS with it, but even then, not being able to ADS quickly all the time and only having a brief window of time to do so isn't exactly great, and Snapshot will probably be the king on snipers. So that is a feels bad, but I think is just a small cost for what is an overall greater good in Destiny, in my opinion. A massive criticism I have of Destiny right now is making builds and investing in different things has gotten somewhat boring. It's either some sort of painfully obvious synergy, two things that just happen to be good that you use together, or just you trying to stack literally everything you can on top of each other, getting the best amount of everything possible with no actual massive trade-offs, simply because you played the game enough to get high enough stat rolled armor or mods that let you get ridiculous amounts of everything. I mean, my current build while using a hand cannon is 859, or I can get 8510 if I wasn't using double hand cannon targeting, with 8 discipline, 5 intellect, and 5 strength. I don't really feel like I'm actually giving up much of anything when my lowest stat possible is 5. That's kind of crazy and kind of absurd. And the same goes for weapons. I gave the example of Astral Horizon earlier, or some other weapons. Quickdraw is just one major facet of this game that allowed you to get a lot of everything on a weapon without making any real decisions on what you were trading off because of eliminating a massive stat category that matters. Now, we're just one step closer to Destiny being a bit more interesting in my opinion. Having to actually make decisions about what you value on a weapon and understand what you're giving up for those decisions and things that you value. I think that Destiny becomes the most interesting when you're forced to make hard decisions about your loadout or your deck building and understand what you're speccing into because you value it and think it's the best, and what you're giving up as a result. Overall, I hope more changes like this happen in Destiny to make loadout building, which I believe is the central part of the game, more interesting. Anyways, thanks for listening guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.